this is Jared from Commit Quality, and in today's video we're going to go over arrays in C#. Where do arrays come into play and what exactly are they? Well, we use arrays to work with sets of data. We're able to store multiple values, and with arrays all of the values must have the same type as well. So you can access these using an index. Now I can keep talking about it, but let's actually go through an example and then we can break it down and hopefully it makes more sense. So I'm just going to add a comment here saying declare a new array because we're going to basically create a new array here. So I want an integer array. So as you already know, if I said int favorite numbers here, I could set this to one single integer. But what I want to do is I want a collection of my favorite numbers. So what I can do is say int square brackets. And what this means is it's now an array of integers. So everything in it must be of type integer. And now I'm going to do the assignment operator, and I'm going to say new int, and we'll do square brackets 4. And what this means now then is we've declared we have a new array variable of type integer, and here the new keyword is actually creating the array for us. And where we're saying int 4 is we're saying our array will have a length of 4, so we can have 4 values inside this. Just to confirm that's correct as well, I can say console.writeLine favorite numbers dot length, and that should output 4 for us. So let's just run this, move it over here, and you can see you've got 4 here. And if I was to actually go into them, what we'll see, they've all been defined as 0 to start off, because we've always said is we know that integers, we want 4 of them, so set them all to 0. And there's a quick way of seeing this, and we haven't talked about this before, but we're going to use a for each loop. So if I say for each var index in favorite numbers, and here I can say console.writeLine index. And what this is actually doing is we have our collection of 4 integers, and it's saying for each value inside our array, loop over it. So what we should see is this will output 0 4 times, because like I said, we created an array of integers, and there's a max of 4 of them. So if I hit run on this, here we go. You've got the 4 because that's outputting the length, so you can ignore that one. That's just saying how many there is. But now with our array, our for each loop, we've looped over every one of them and we've output what they are, which is all equal to 0. Now, one of the key things with arrays as well is they start at an index of 0. So at the start of all this, I said you can access them. You can access these using the index. So I'm going to get rid of this console.writeLine, but I'm going to keep this for each because this will be good to output things. But if I wanted to change the value of the first index, you might think I do something like favorite numbers brackets 1 equals, and I'll say my favorite number is number 7 because it's a lucky number. If I was to run this won't change the first value. This would change the second because they are 0 based. So I'd have to have favorite numbers bracket 0, which means get me the first value inside this array. And because I'm using the assignment operator, I'm saying set it to 7. So if I run this now, what we should see is the first output will be 7 and the rest will still be 0. There we are, we've done it over, and now this has changed to 7. And of course, that 4 has disappeared because I removed the console.writeLine. So remember, when you want to grab values or you want to change values, remember that arrays, they start at index 0. So the maximum would be 3 in this case. If I try to do 4, we should have an error because when we run, here we are, index out of range exception. So this is basically saying you told me to create an array which has a maximum of 4, and now you're trying to change the 5th one, which of course doesn't exist because our maximum length is 4. Awesome. Now what I've done here, I've set the size of the array before runtime, but we can also do this at runtime as well. So if I was to just get rid of this, we'll comment this out for now, and let's just create a new array. So I'm going to say, tell you what, we're going to take an input first. So we can say int array size equals int.parse, which you might remember from one of my previous videos, and we're going to say console.readLine. So all this is doing is it's going to take an input from us, which we're going to put as a number, and it's going to pass it into an integer, because you might remember console.readLine will bring everything in as a string. And now what I can say is int square brackets, I'll put like example equals new int, and we'll say array size. So what it means now then is if I take array size here instead of, if I take example here instead of favorite numbers, what we should do now is when we run in, we'll say, okay, tell me what the length of the array you want to be, and we'll set that in this line here. And then we're going to use this for each to output how many I have. So let's do a run. Of course, nothing's happening because I've done a read line. So I'm going to let's put in 10. And here we are. You've got 10 zeros appeared here because I've said I want my array size to be 10. And like I said, you can do this with anything. It hasn't got to be integer. That's just the type. So I could say string here, and I'll say favorite YouTube channels, and I'll say new string of 4. If I just copy this because it's not an example array anymore and I run this, it's created our array, but of course nothing's been set because we haven't set any strings. And that's the next thing I want to touch on then. What if I said I want to set, let's put this to 2. I want to set the values for these strings. Well, you can do that. We can do curly braces, and this is where we can say now, pass the initializing values we want. So I could say, I don't know, I could say commit quality, and who else? Let's just say Mr. Beast. Well, obviously the 2 most famous YouTube channels in the world. But now if I run this, we'll see that our array has been created and the values have been passed in. If I tried to add another one in here, say blah blah, you can already see here that we have an error saying an array initializer of length 2 is expected, and we've already exceeded that. So to get around this, you can do this, and you can remove the size of the array here, and that will be totally fine. And this will create an array of 3 strings with commit quality, Mr. Beast, and blah blah. Perfect. So what you've kind of seen here is it's already set up to help us out of saying if you're creating an array of this size, you can't then add more in here because you've told me this is our max size that we want. And like I said, if you want to change one of them, then you can do it. Let's say we want to change Mr. Beast. So maybe pause the video here now and have a think of what you think we should be doing next. So this is a really good exercise. Once you've tried it out, unpause the video and have a look, see if it's matching. What we can say is favorite YouTube channels, brackets, 1, because this is 0, this is 1, and this is 2, equals, I'm just going to put subscribe. Now what we should see is when we loop over everything, originally the array had commit quality, Mr. Beast, and blah blah, but now we're saying it should have commit quality, subscribe, and blah blah. Just hit run on this. And here we are. It's changed the value from Mr. Beast to subscribe. And if you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. Awesome. So that's just an easy way of you can change the values at runtime as well then. And there's only one more thing I really want to talk about because this gives you the kind of basics of the collections and the arrays here. And that's kind of the extra methods we have on top of arrays that are built in to make our life easier. And one I want to talk about is, I'll use one of the most basic ones. Let's change this to int and just say example here. We'll say new int. And let's set an array of integers here. So we'll say 3, 400, 22, and 1. Let's get rid of this. And what we can actually do then is we can output this array as it is, which is completely fine. Well, we've got example, and this would output 3, 400, 22, and 1. But what if I said I want to sort the array? So I want to sort in ascending order. Well, it's really easy. And the documentation, once again, can help us with this. If we go over to our learnmicrosoft.com, if you go through the documentation, you can see all the different properties and the methods that we have to use. And what you can see is if you look through them, you can probably see there's one called sort, which pretty much tells us what we want to do here. You want to sort the elements in a one-dimensional array. Let's give this one a go and see if it does what we expect it to do. So I can say array.sort. And if I say example, let's see if that does what we expect it to do. Let's run. And here we are. Instead of outputting 3, 422, it's now in a nice sorted order for us. Definitely have a look at the documentation, have a play around with things. There's really basic things you can do. So we just sort it in order. But maybe you say, okay, I have this array and I want to flip it around. So this is the first, second, third, and fourth. Or in array terms, 0, 1, 2, and 3. Well, you can do that really simply. I could change this sort to reverse, hit run, and now we should see 1 is first, then 22, 400, then 3. And that's exactly what has been output here. So I would suggest having a look through the documentation I just talked about. Definitely really useful. Get to grips with all the kind of things you can do with arrays, all the different operations you can perform. But as always, any questions, you can drop a comment below. A like and subscribe is appreciated. I've also enabled super thanks on my videos so you can help contribute to my YouTube series on my website. As always, thank you for watching and have a great day.